Hey guys and girls, this is Anish from gainmedialab.com. Welcome to my exciting world of live audio mixing. In today's episode, we continue with our full drum mix and we focus on the hi-hat. But before we do any of that, make sure that you have subscribed to this channel so that you don't miss out on any of the videos that I post every Monday. With all that said and done, let's jump into the mix. I hope you're following along with the series. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you should go back and watch parts 1 through 3. That's a mouthful. Where we talk about mixing the overheads, the kick drum, and the snare drum. And this is where we are at right now. So we are adding the hi-hat channel to this bunch. This is not going to be a long episode probably, because hi-hat is first of all, it's just one channel. Up until now, we were still focusing always on 2 channels at least per video. And it still has a few things that I want to show you guys. So without much talk and further ado, let's just start the multi-track so that you refresh your memory on where we are right now, and then start working from there. Here we go. So you can hear that we have quite a bit of hi-hat already present from the overheads. And I want to just basically talk about how to deal with that and how to approach hi-hat as a separate channel in mix. So when you get hi-hat from the overheads, it's not going to be spatially exact. So you won't be able to figure out exactly where it is coming from. In terms of the stereo field, in terms of the pan setting, and it will probably be a bit darker or duller. It won't have all that brilliant, delicious high-end sparkle. But still, you want to add the hi-hat and be mindful of its dynamics. So right now, if we start the multi-track again, I just want to sort of listen again and hear how much of the hi-hat in terms of level we have compared to the overheads, and what is going on when the hi-hat gets open and closed. So what is the difference between the 2 levels? So let's just listen to that again. So it's a bit lower than the overheads, which is great because when we lower the overheads, the hi-hat will sort of be pulled back a bit and it's not overbearing. But I can hear a lot of the dynamics. So when the hi-hat gets opened, it sort of gets really, really loud, and when it's closed, it's barely noticeable. So the point of this exercise of adding this channel is to have a consistent sound throughout all of those dynamic changes, and also be able to sort of shape the sound of the hi-hat quite a bit. So when you listen to the sound of the hi-hat from the overheads, it's a lot of the low end of the hi-hat, whatever that means. So it's still upper mid-range in its frequency region, but we don't have that brilliance of the top end present. So I want to add that. I want to sort of move it slightly to the right in the entire stereo spectrum, just to have a bit of a stereo spreading of the image. and then address the dynamics. So those are the three things that I want to do with adding the hi-hat to the mix. So let's just jump right in. First of all, every good thing starts with setting the input gain, and let's do that. I'm shooting for about -15 because we still have quite a bit of snare, and the dynamics are there. Whoa, there was a hit that went to -10, which is something that I don't want. So you can hear it in isolation, so the dynamics of the opening of the hi-hat are really, really high, and I want to sort of address it, right? Let's put it in the mix and see what happens. So I want it a bit higher in terms of gain. Let's just check again. Yeah, that should be fine. Alright. Okay, frequency-wise, let's start with the low cut or the high pass filter. No, let's do that. And just, I don't need the low end from this particular channel. I want to go as high as I can. So on this particular model, I can go up to 400 Hertz. Then I'll do some more low cutting. So on the low frequency filter, I can't do that, but I can do a shelf. I can do a shelf at about 800 and turn that down. And of course, every time you start working on the hi-hat, the drummer starts playing the ride cymbal. So let's go back. I'm muting the rest of the channel so that you guys can actually hear what I'm doing to it, and also the overheads. So this is what we've done with the EQ so far. We've just cut everything below 800 Hertz. So now the kick is gone, the bottom of the snare is gone, so we don't have a lot of the dynamics from those microphones. Right now we're just left with that top end sizzle. Okay, so let's talk about the frequencies in this particular channel. I'm hearing a bit of harshness in the upper end. So let's try and figure out if there's something we can do EQ wise to sort of get rid of that. So this is something that is problematic, around 1.5K. Again, I'm shooting for brilliance, but I want it to be not harsh. I want it to be nice and pleasant. There's this honkiness at 4K that's bugging me. Okay, so EQ out, EQ in. Let's try again. Okay, let's bring in the overheads and see how that blends together. So, without a hi-hat channel, better. Let's place it into the stereo field a bit more to the right. So bringing in this channel allows me to sort of spatially define where the hi-hat is coming from, and I want to place it to the right side of the mix, Whether or not you are mixing from the drummer's perspective or from the audience's perspective, that's irrelevant to this case. I usually mix from the drummer's perspective because what I want to experience, or what I want to translate from the stage, is exactly what the audience is hearing. So if the hi-hat, if I'm seeing the hi-hat on the right, I want to be hearing the hi-hat from the right. Let's add in the rest of the channels and see where we at after the EQ changes. Mute. Listen to what I'm trying to figure out right now is how the addition of this channel is influencing the other channels that we have already worked on, especially the snare, because it's been pointing at the snare, although the hi-hat is in front of it, but it will still add a bit of top and a bit of sizzle to the snare. So let's listen to the snare when I add the hi-hat, and I'll take it in and out so you can hear what's going on. Loud. So it adds a bit of punch and adds a bit of attack to the snare. It's not harsh, but it's fine by me. That's why I haven't been cranking up the top end on the snare in the previous video, which I hope you have seen in part 3. And it sounds fine. It's not adding anything really too aggressive to it, which is great. The only thing I'm still concerned with is the dynamics of it. So let's go to the compression on this channel and see if we can tame the difference between the closed hi-hat and the open hi-hat. Threshold, a bit of makeup gain. Ratio up to 3. Since we are dealing with really high frequencies, the attack and release times should be really short. Otherwise you will be influencing a lot of the non-transient stuff, which just make your hi-hat sound unnatural. So without, with, there's one more thing that we can do, a couple of things that we can do actually. I'll bring in the key filter so that it really grabs, so that the dynamics processing really grabs just on the frequencies of the hi-hat. Plus I will sort of shape the knee in such a way that it is a bit softer. That just makes the transition between the opening of the hi-hat and the closing of the hi-hat a bit smoother and a bit more natural. So let's try that. Let's listen to where we are right now. Yeah, this is fine. Knee. Let's go maybe to 2. Just that. It's a subtle thing, but it's there, differences between the closed hi-hat and the open hi-hat are a bit lessened, and that's exactly what I'm going for with this setting. That with plus it defines the hi-hat just slightly better. Maybe we can add just a bit of sparkle at the top. Go back to the EQ and see if we can address that. Bring it down in volume a bit. It sounds great with that sort of high-end, top-end sparkle, but when the overheads come in, they sound a bit duller than the hi-hat. But I like the sound of the overheads not being too bright and sort of too aggressive. We might change that once we start adding in some reverb or some spatial things. But right now I'm going to pull back on that top end on the hi-hat. And just listen to it one more time, see if it's adding anything to the mix that I don't want to. And just for the heck of it, I'm going to check polarity against the overheads to see if there's any difference. I don't think it will make any change, but you never know. So let's do that. I'm using everything else. No, that's good. That's fine. Since we have sort of eliminated everything else with the EQ on that particular channel, there's not really much to grab onto in terms of polarity mismatch, so that's fine. Okay, this is fine. I'm going to bring it down in level just a bit. So it's present, it's there. Let's just mute it to see what the difference is between adding the hi-hat and not adding the hi-hat. This is without. With. So it added a bit of high end to the snare, which is fine. It just opened it up a bit. It didn't actually influence any of the other sound, especially regarding the overheads. It defined the space in terms of the stereo field. So right now it's positioned where we want it to be positioned, and you can sort of move it around if you want to. It sort of tackled the dynamics of the hi-hat, which is something that was a bit concerning, but we got that tamed. And I think this is it. We can happily leave it here until we get to the reverb stuff and, you know, the spatial stuff. So right now I'm going to call the hi-hat done, and this is going to be the end of this video. Thanks for watching. Next week we will tackle the toms, and then we will talk about adding reverb and sort of bringing it all together. Until next time, let me know if you like these sort of videos. Let me know how you like the series. If you have any tips and tricks about mixing hi-hat, please leave them in the comments below. While you're doing that, make sure that you also like and subscribe and share, and also visit gainmedialab.com for more audio deliciousness. So until next time, mix great shows. Take care. Bye.